Level 1. The Recruit. You sign the papers at a Navy recruiting station in a shopping center. The recruiter shakes your hand. He tells you that you've made the right decision. You're 18 years old. You swam competitively in high school. You've watched every documentary about Navy SEALs you could find. You think you know what you're getting into. You don't. Boot camp is 8 weeks in Great Lakes, Illinois. They take your name and replace it with your last name, shouted. You run and drill and stand in formation in the freezing dark. You graduate as a seaman recruit. Your family takes photographs. You look like a sailor. You don't feel like one yet. You get orders to basic underwater demolition, SEAL training in Coronado, California. The Pacific Ocean is right there, enormous and cold. You are not ready for what comes next. Level 2. The BUD-S student. There are 180 men in your class. The first thing they do is run you into the surf. The water is 58 degrees. You run back out. You roll in the sand. You are cold and covered in wet sand, and you are only 20 minutes into the first day of the rest of your life. The instructors watch from the beach. They are not impressed by anything. Hell Week arrives at the end of week 3. 5.5 days without sleep. You will run more than 200 miles. By Wednesday morning, 70 helmets are lined up outside the compound. Men who quit walk to the brass bell, ring it 3 times, and set their helmet down. A truck appears. They're gone. Nobody says anything. You keep moving. You finish Hell Week. You can barely walk. Your joints are swollen and your skin is raw. The instructors give you a steak dinner. You eat it in wet clothes on a bench. You have never tasted anything so good in your life. You've earned something. You don't have a word for it yet. The men beside you know it too. That's enough. Second phase is combat diving. You navigate miles underwater at night in San Diego Bay with nothing but a compass on your wrist. Third phase is demolitions, small unit tactics, and precision shooting on San Clemente Island. You graduate BUD-S. 6 more months of SEAL qualification training. Then they pin the trident. An eagle, a trident, a pistol, an anchor. They press it into your chest with the pin unlatched. It bleeds. That's the tradition. Level 3. The new guy. You report to SEAL Team 3 in Coronado. The platoon doesn't shake your hand with reverence. They hand you a list of tasks. Clean this vehicle. Inventory this gear room. You are at the bottom again. You thought you left the bottom behind. You didn't. 18 months of workup. Then you deploy to the Arabian Gulf. Your first real mission is a vessel boarding in the dark. You fast rope onto the deck of a cargo ship. You search the holds. You find nothing. You climb back into the helicopter. Your hands are not shaking, exactly, but they are close. You understand now that training and real are separated by a feeling you can't rehearse. You file it away. You keep going. Level 4. The deployed operator. Second deployment, Kunar Province, Afghanistan. Your nights are when the work happens. Your team stacks outside a compound gate at 2 a.m. No one speaks. The breacher places the charge. The gate disappears. You move. Inside you find a family in one room and weapons in another. You treat a child's fever with your medical kit. You are professional and fast and gone in 14 minutes. Not all of them go that cleanly. One night, the intelligence is wrong and you walk into an ambush in a dry riverbed. RPGs and machine guns from 3 directions. A teammate takes fragmentation in his left arm. You tourniquet him in the dark while someone is still shooting. He makes it. You write the after-action report at 0400. Your hands are steady by then. You notice this. You file it away. You come home. Someone hands you a beer at a cookout in someone's backyard. You realize you are the only person here who was in a firefight 11 days ago. You drink the beer. You don't bring it up. The hardest part isn't becoming a SEAL. It's coming home and coming back, over and over, for the rest of your career. Level 5, the team leader. You're 28, 3 deployments. 7 men look to you now. Your platoon is in Somalia, advising Somali commandos. Some of them are exceptional. Some are there because their uncle knows someone. You train them all the same. One night, you lead a strike near Hobyo. Inside the target, you make 2 decisions in 6 seconds. Both are correct. You don't know that until the debrief. In the moment, you just make them and keep moving. Your medic's wife delivers their first child while he's deployed. You set up a satellite video call on a laptop in the team room. He watches his daughter born from 7,000 miles away. He is smiling and crying at the same time. You give him the room. You stand outside and feel something complicated about the life you've all chosen. The mission brief is in 2 hours, and someone has to run it. Level 6, the Master Chief. 15 years in, 8 deployments, 2 teammates buried. Your knees sound like gravel when you run. You don't lead raids anymore. Officers rotate through on career tours. You stay. You are the institutional memory of the team. You call the struggling ones into your office, one at a time. You don't ask how they're doing, because that question invites a lie. You say, "Tell me what's going on." Mostly, they talk. Sometimes they need help. You can't give them yourself. You get them that help. A new guy joins fresh out of SQT. He looks exactly like you looked 15 years ago. You tell him, "The only wasted experience is the one you don't survive to learn from." Level 7, the Squadron Commander. You're a commander, 05. You sit in a joint operations center, watching live drone feeds over multiple countries. You authorize a strike. The building disappears in infrared light. You wait for the battle damage assessment. The intelligence was right. This time, you lose a platoon in a helicopter. A night approach into a mountain valley in Afghanistan. 8 operators and 4 air crews. You stand in the rain at Dover Air Force Base and salute each casket as it comes off the transport. You write 8 letters. Each one takes 2 hours. You write their names on a note card and keep it in your desk drawer. Every morning before work, you look at it. Level 8, the Flag Officer. You're a Rear Admiral commanding all of Naval Special Warfare, 10,000 personnel worldwide. You brief the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. You have been in the Situation Room. Someone presents a problem. A terrorist network, a hostage, a weapons program. Everyone turns to you. You present options. A decision is made. Hours later, operators on the other side of the world are moving because of words spoken in that room. You go back to your office and eat a sandwich. Your aide asks if you need anything. You say you're fine. You mean it in the way that means something else entirely now. Level 9, the Retired Warrior. You move to a house in San Diego with a deck that faces the bay. You drink coffee out there every morning and watch the pelicans cross the water. You have nowhere to be. You're 54 years old. Your shoulder has a tear that never got fixed because there was always another deployment. Your wife suggested a therapist, a former operator. You go. You talk about some of it. Not all of it. Some things you will take to your grave. That's not avoidance. That's classified, legally and in every other way. They ask you to speak at a BUD, S graduation, in Coronado. 60 new SEALs, tridents fresh on their chests, looking up at you. They look impossibly young. They look exactly like you looked the day yours was pinned. You tell them the brotherhood is real and the cost is real. You tell them to hold on to their families tighter than any mission. They listen politely. They don't believe you. You didn't believe the men who told you either. Somewhere in Coronado right now, a class of 180 men is running into the Pacific for the first time. The water is 58 degrees. An instructor watches from the beach with crossed arms. Some of them are already deciding whether to ring the bell. Most of them don't know yet what they're deciding. They will find out. The cycle continues. If you want to stay inside worlds like this one, subscribe. The bell is right there, and walking away from it is always a choice.